On today's show, should the Houston Rockets trade or draft the pick that they have via the Brooklyn Nets? What would it take to ultimately trade that pick? What kind of player could they get? Or is it better to hold on to the pick, draft another young guy, and whether or not they should go with best player available or a best fit available if they make the draft selection? It's all coming up on today's Locked On Rockets.
This is Mission Control, Houston.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's up, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. As always, I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, native Houstonian and credentialed media member. I'm also the host of Locked On NBA Mondays. Be sure to follow along wherever you listen to your podcasts or on YouTube. Just search Locked On Rockets. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, where the best way you can help our show out is to comment anything below on YouTube or give us a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcast. Now, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more this season with FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets. Guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And as always, thank you so much for making Locked On Rockets part of your day every single day, whether it's on your way to work, on your lunch break, in the gym. Thank you for being an everydayer. Joining us now is your weekly co-host, NBA draft enthusiast, and diehard Houston Rockets fan, Dr. Madison Moore. You can track down on Twitter at MadmanLeaks. Here as we kind of start to dive into a very interesting discussion with your Houston Rockets and how they should approach this offseason, because the NBA draft, it's a little ways out, but the Rockets have, at least right now, access to the Brooklyn Nets pick. It's sitting right now at 9th in the NBA draft lottery, so there's a chance for that pick to go up a little bit. It could drop a little bit, depending on what ultimately happens on Sunday, May 12th for the draft lottery. There we go. But ultimately, what should the Rockets do with that pick, or quite possibly their own pick, if their pick somehow manages to jump into the top 4? Are the Rockets at a place where they should be looking to maybe trade that Nets pick or trade both of their picks if they do somehow maintain access to theirs instead of it going to the OKC Thunder? Should they trade these picks and look to bolster the roster right now, making kind of what you would call win now moves or going for win now type players? Or are they in a place where you could maybe afford to keep those draft assets, draft more young players, and maybe bring them along a little bit more slowly, guys who they could, maybe not quite draft and stash, so to speak, but at least draft and take the time with their development. Maybe don't dump them in the deep end right away. So Madison, from the jump here, we're going to get into this. I know I've got my opinion here. What do you feel the Rockets should do, at least with the Nets pick? Let's just operate on that assumption right now. We're not going to worry about their own pick. They've got the Nets pick. What would you like to see them do with that Nets pick? Keep it or trade it?
Yeah. So for me, I think what I want them to do is make the best decision with the possible scenarios out there for them, right? If there's a good
what a political answer.
Yeah, no, I mean, of course, right? But that's what I'm saying. You can't box it in like that. I mean, of course, I'm a draft enthusiast, so I want to pick the pick. But, does that make sense? Do we have room on this team to develop guys? Do we have actual room to take in a young, very talented guy and develop them with minutes? And to me, I think we do. We now have surrounded our guys with a good group of vets. And I think as we're going through this process in the NBA, we should continue to build our team through the draft. And these young guys are now in a position where they don't have to play right away now, right? Well, I'd like to develop them long-term under Ime Udoka. I believe in his developmental staff. And I think we should continue to add talented guys, especially in a draft like this draft. That is not a lot of high-end talent, but a lot of guys in this draft are going to be good NBA players, good role players, and we need to continue to develop those guys on the cheap. So let's say some of our better young players kind of outprice themselves. We have young guys who are ready to step up and contribute for that are very talented at a lesser price. But on the flip side, if a guy comes available that fits exactly what this Rockets team needs as a veteran that can really upgrade our team, then of course you got to trade that pick. Or let's say a package for a superstar like Luka Doncic comes along. Of course, that pick is out of here. But I think most realistically, what's going to happen is that we're going to end up keeping that pick, and I think that's a good thing for the Rockets. That makes sense.
Okay. I agree with all the points you just made. I think ultimately this Rockets team isn't necessarily in a rush to do anything, right? They had a great successful season. They didn't, despite what you'll hear with some, Twitter analysts, whatever, talking about, oh, the Rockets spent all this money and they didn't even make the playoffs, whatever. No, this last year was incredibly successful for the Houston Rockets, a 41-41 season with a lot of internal growth. There's a lot to be optimistic about. I don't think they're in a position where you need to push your chips into the center of the table, right? You need to go all in, you need to start making these win now moves. But I will say that with the caveat, they do have a glaring issue with this team, and that is a distinct lack of shooting. Yes. Shooting was the Achilles heel for this team. We're seeing that happen right now with the Orlando Magic. They just do not have enough shooting, and that has been an issue for them, at various stretches throughout the playoffs right now. So if you're the Rockets, and if you had the opportunity to trade this pick and get an upgrade at a position, I think the easiest position right now that you're looking at, just if we're just looking at, say, the starting lineup, if you could upgrade, say, Dillon Brooks' position with a guy who plays the wing, is a plus level defender the same way Dillon Brooks is, but gives you maybe a little bit more offensively, maybe a slightly more dynamic player offensively, or a guy who's more accustomed to shooting on volume from three. And I know that Dillon was one that was shooting lights out for 2/3 of the season before he started to regress. So it feels weird to pick on him as far as the Rockets shooting woes. But there were also plenty of games where he just didn't have it from a shooting perspective. And he's not a high volume, quick catch and release shooter, right? He does his job. He hits open shots when he's given them. But I think as defenses kind of adjusted to him as the season went along, it was a lot easier to run Dillon Brooks off the 3-point line because he just doesn't have a quick release. And again, the numbers started to regress as the season went on. So if there was a guy out there, right, if you had an opportunity, I know we've brought this name up in the past before, but obviously, the offseason is a different beast than the NBA trade deadline. Maybe the Brooklyn Nets get desperate, right? Maybe if you could go out there and get a Mikal Bridges type, if you could get somebody that could be a direct upgrade in a vacuum to Dillon Brooks, but it would cost you that first round pick in this year's draft, I think I'd be willing to entertain that discussion. But to your point about drafting a young guy, right, and being able to grow and develop them, I think that is very similar to what we've seen the OKC Thunder do, right? Their roster is chock full of young guys. They are so incredibly deep. They've got so many young guys, and all guys, they've done a really great job under Mark Daigneault of developing, and they've got a great culture over there. They've got a great developmental program over there, and that team is going to be insanely 11, 12 deep for a very, very long time. The fact that they're able to just trot Cason Wallace out there and have him be as effective as he is right out of the gate is so impressive. So you think about this Rockets team. Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Yeah, no, so I think you brought up a great point, and that is part of what I'm talking about is like OKC, they have built through the draft and have all these great young players that are interchangeable. And you were talking about maybe cashing that pick in for an upgrade, right? And one of the guys that I think may be a possible candidate for that upgrade is from OKC, Lou Dort. Okay. And Lou Dort, because I don't think Bridges will be just that pick in Dillon Brooks, right? Well, Lou Dort might be a guy who could get us that pick in Lou Dort. And I say all that to say is there was some questioning why the OKC Thunder took Cason Wallace. And a lot of people were speculating during the time that it was a possible replacement for Lou Dort in his looming contract coming up, because now they have all these great young players. So you can see it in both sides of how the Rockets, may be in that situation in the future. And as well as I think that'd be a very good upgrade. Lou Dort is now shooting 40% from three on the season. And it's turned himself into a really effective 3-point shooter. But that's just to see both sides, I think, of a deal that might really work. And I thought it was really interesting that you brought them up, because that was
absolutely right. I think that's almost like the ideal team building strategy that a lot of NBA fans kind of romanticize, this idea of we're going to build through the draft. We're going to keep all of our draft picks. And we're going to have this, incredible homegrown team. Frankly, that doesn't happen very often, unfortunately. Now, there are a couple examples that you can point to right now, the OKC Thunder being one of them, the Denver Nuggets being one of them, right, with a ton of homegrown talent, right? Aaron Gordon's the only piece that's over there that isn't one of their homegrown mainstays of their big three with Jokic, with Murray, and MPJ. MPJ is a name that we're going to talk about a little bit later on as far as an interesting parallel that we can learn from and look at for the Houston Rockets. But coming up, we're going to get into what it would look like if the Rockets traded the pick, right? There's different ways they could go. Should they trade up? They could trade back. They could trade out for a win now player. We're going to talk about that here in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by DoorDash. This Mother's Day, get something thoughtful for mom on DoorDash. Surprise her from wherever you are with fresh bouquets, the latest in tech, gift cards, self-care treats, and so much more to make her day all that much better. Look, Mother's Day is a very important holiday. You got to let mom know that you care about her. And maybe you got something planned. Maybe you got a big dinner or you're planning to spend, part of your day with her. That's great. But what better way than to surprise her right when she wakes up in the morning with a gift delivered right to her doorstep? And you can do that with DoorDash. Get all of your Mother's Day gifts all in one place and get 50% off of your next order, up to $15 when you spend $15 or more on your next flour, convenience, grocery, or retail order now with code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA. Order using DoorDash today. Terms apply. And continuing on here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast, home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. Now, I'm going to do my best to not defer too much to Madison in this conversation, even though he is our resident NBA draft enthusiast and expert here at Locked On Rockets. But Madison, when we start looking at entertaining this idea of trading the pick, now, let's get this one out of the way, because I think you and I are kind of on the same page here, where obviously if a good enough trade presented itself, right, then of course you're going to entertain the idea of including that trade in pick talks, or in trade talks. But the idea of keeping the pick and adding yet another young piece to this already exciting young core is very tantalizing. So let's go ahead and talk about the idea of trading this pick away, right? Trading for an impact player. At this point, I mean, the Rockets have a variety of different assets that they could use. They've got a ton of expiring salary. They've got Dillon Brooks, which is kind of the one, I don't want to call him like a bad salary, so to speak, because he's a starting caliber player. He's an all-NBA defensive caliber player. Like, he's a very, very good player in the right circumstances. But it's also, it feels like kind of a harder position to, I guess, upgrade, because you're not going to move on from Fred. You're going to run it back and give Jalen another chance at 2 guard next year. Sengun's not going anywhere. Jabari's still going to be in the starting lineup. So when you narrow it all down, the only position that it really feels like you could move that pick and make like a significant upgrade for, a win now upgrade, would probably be that starting 3 spot, unless you wanted to trade that pick and maybe include Dillon and in some capacity, maybe some of the expiring deals, Jae'Sean, Tate, Jock, Landale, whatever. And then if you were ready to give Tari, Eason the reins to the starting 3 spot, you could get back a guy who maybe doesn't play Dillon's position. Maybe you bring back like a combo guard type, somebody to bring some extra scoring off the bench, a 6th man type. But that's also kind of the role that Whitmore occupies for this team. So it's like, where does this Rocket team have a real like position of need or position that they could upgrade is the problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's shooting and upgrade at the 3 spot are like the most obvious areas that we could upgrade this pick, but that's why I really don't think this pick will be moved unless it's in a package for a star. Yeah. Because if you do that, if you try and upgrade for Dillon Brooks, right, if you upgrade Dillon Brooks is already a very good starting.
It's hard to upgrade Dillon Brooks.
It's a very hard spot to upgrade. And then not only do you take away Dillon Brooks, but you also take away the avenue for development for your other young wings to naturally take Dillon Brooks' spot. You make it even harder for them, because Dillon Brooks is already such a great starter. And if your young guys are able to eclipse Dillon Brooks in their 2nd and 3rd years, that's just amazing, right? You want to give them that opportunity to do so. I mean, and that's why I really think it's going to be really hard for the Rockets to move this pick. And you don't want to kind of devalue the pick and not get a guy that you really, that really can upgrade the roster. So that's why I think the Rockets are either end up going to make this pick, or actually going to trade back and try and pick up some future assets and other picks in this deal, or even just trade completely out and pick up 2 future firsts, right? Because this is a lottery pick. And I think that's more realistic for these Rockets, to get more assets, kind of push this ball down the road, especially with a weaker draft. So I think if those are realistic moves for the Rockets. Pick up another asset, move back in the draft, and you can add shooting in this draft. This draft has so many elite, versatile shooters, and a lot of the things that the Rockets have weaknesses, and you can build that through this draft. They have a lot of upperclassmen who are very good shooters, and upperclassmen come in more NBA ready, more ready to contribute in any capacity. And at the 9th pick, if we just stay at 9 with the Brooklyn Nets, there will be a glutton of guys that feel that shooting need, as well as you can get some high upside guys, I think, that we'll touch on later.
I'm curious, is there usually in drafts, right? There's, as you're kind of, doing mocks and looking at the guys, there's usually like more or less kind of tiers to a draft. Now, I know that one of the knocks on this one is there's no consensus, like number one, tier one guy that you're like, oh, this guy's better than all the rest, or he's going to be like a future star in the league. And that's kind of one of the problems with this draft. I know we've talked about it in the past that it's kind of widely regarded as a weaker draft or one of the weakest drafts in recent history. But is there still maybe like a cutoff where you're like looking like there's a drop off from like once you get to like pick 10 or like after the first 10 guys, it's like, okay, there's a bit of a, because for me, I think the hard part about the idea of trading back in this draft is it would mean that there has to be a team further back in the lottery, right? Around the middle of the first round, whatever, that has their eyes on a specific guy that they want to make sure that they get their hands on at your pick. And I'm just trying to see if there's a guy, like I'm trying to wrap my head around a hypothetical, right? Like maybe the Miami Heat really want a guy at 9 and the Rockets are willing to trade back to 15 for the Heat. But is there like a cutoff where you can look and say, oh yeah, there might be some of these guys are gone by the 10th pick?
So this is a very good question and very interesting thing. And the way I like to think about this draft is there are going to be better players, more NBA ready players later in the draft. While in the lottery, teams are taking swings for stars. So these guys are less proven, right? Less proven, but have more upside than these more ready-made guys. So because you're in the lottery, in that lottery group, these are typically our bad teams looking for higher upside guys. They're going to go for the younger guys, you know what I mean? But but a lot of these guys have questions. But that is how I feel like this draft is going to get broken up by upside and then guaranteed production, right? And then you will have, of course, a mix of a couple of players who are going to be kind of that guaranteed production, but it's more high level, like Dalton Knecht. Like Dalton Knecht is, an older 23-year-old player, 6'6" wing, who's an elite shooter and an elite scorer, right? But he does that at such a high level, it vaults him into the lottery, even though his upside is going to be a bit lower because of his age. But that's how I think it'll be kind of divvied up. So if the Rockets are looking to, just add another rotational shooter who they don't want a lot of upside, I'm sure they'll feel comfortable with moving back in the draft. But guys who have their guy, and this will be an eye of the beholder draft, and they have some inside intel that another team will take them before, they might pull the trigger and try and get up to get their guy.
As I'm kind of looking at the lay of the land right now for the first round, I wonder if a good potential trade partner then would be the Toronto Raptors, who they currently have the 19th pick. It's actually going to them via the Indiana Pacers, but they have the 19th pick, and I wonder now again they do have the 6th overall pick as well, so they're right there. But I wonder if because they want to maybe take a couple big swings, or big being relative with this being a weaker class, but if they'd be open to the idea of getting another swing in the top 10, and the Rockets could then trade back to that 19th pick and potentially recoup that that additional asset further down the line from them. Be it and that's the thing is how much to move from 9 to 19, what would you consider fair value moving back, right? It's not going to be a future first. That's unbelievable, but maybe a pair of seconds in the future or something. We've seen recently how seconds can be used to kind of grease the wheels around the NBA trade deadline, that kind of thing, or maybe a very heavily protected like future first, or I don't know if the Raptors have like an extra first from like a team that's going to be a late first or something at their disposal, but something like that.
I would, if I was the Rockets, I would at least want a heavily protected future first, just because the 10 spots is a large jump. That's you're not moving 6 spots back, and you are getting a tier behind guys with a 10 spot move. So I'd like something significant, especially when you're moving that deep into the lottery, because once again, the teams at 14, 15 are competing teams, and they're going to go after very good win now prospects. And if you're moving back, you probably want one of those prospects, right? One of those win now, contribute now. And those guys are going to start going off the board at 13, 14, 15, right? Because all these teams, more and more teams are trying to compete. And now we're learning, or not learning, but now we're getting back to older prospects are more NBA ready and really able to contribute at an earlier time. So we'll see a lot of those good NBA ready prospects go out the door in those teams. So I would say I would at least want to heavily protect it additional first with that. But I can see it getting done by maybe 3 seconds or 2 seconds, because seconds are becoming a bit more valuable.
Coming up, I want to get into one more trade up hypothetical here in just a moment, as well as we're going to talk about the kind of draft philosophy of drafting the best player versus the best fit. And are the Rockets at a stage in their process where they should be prioritizing fit over talent when it comes to this draft pick? We're going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every single game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and super easy to use. Right now, you can take a look at the outright betting favorites to win the title this season. The Boston Celtics right now sitting at plus 135 to win it all. The Denver Nuggets, the defending champions, plus 210 right behind them. The OKC Thunder, distant third place at plus 900. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And final segment here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. Now, I know I just spent a good amount of time that last segment kind of ragging on this draft class, Madison, but set that aside for a moment. I know Alex Sarr is kind of the shiny guy, like at the top of this draft. Where, like, I think if you walk away with the number 1 or 2 overall pick, I can't imagine he falls out of the top 3. Probably, like, he's probably going to go top 3. I think it's probably one of the safer picks to assume that he's going to be one of the. But even though he's not the consensus number 1 overall guy, it's going to be kind of dependent on who walks away, in what order at the top of the draft. But I think it's pretty safe to assume he's going to go top 3, maybe top 4 at the latest. Is that a guy, or is there another guy potentially in your eyes that you think is worthwhile of trading up for in this draft? Like, could the Rockets be in a position where would you be willing to trade that 9th pick and something else of value to get into that top 3 or 4? Is there a prospect out there that you, and again, like, I don't know, because I've also seen some, mock analysts say that if Cam Whitmore was in this draft, he'd be like a consensus number 1 guy. So
No, there's no prospect in this draft that I trade up through. Let's just say Alex Sarr. Alex Sarr in last year's draft would be in the back half of the lottery.
Oh, man.
No, I actually, there's a lot of prospects I would have took over Alex Sarr in last year's draft. That just goes to show kind of the weakness of this draft. But he is a good prospect. I think he can be a very good contributor in the future. But he's still a work in process, like most of the young guys in this draft. I actually think Klingon might be a better prospect, in other ways, which is another big center. But Alex Sarr does offer a lot of versatility for the modern NBA, but guys are going back big. So I think it's really going to be an eye and beholder and what guys want. But as for this draft, I would not be looking to move up.
Okay. All right. So moving up, probably out of the question. We talked about trading the pick for a win now type player. It's going to be kind of hard to upgrade this roster unless you're getting like a true blue kind of superstar upside type piece. If a star player does shake loose, I know there's a lot of you Rockets fans out there that have been throwing the Devin Booker, Kevin Durant hypotheticals out there. That's going to be a conversation for another day. I know the Phoenix Suns are in utter turmoil after getting swept in the first round. And again, we will definitely discuss that another day, but we're going to stay focused on the draft here in this episode, because there's a really important, I guess, discussion to be had here. And that's usually, and this has been the case for the last 3 years, since the Rockets have been a bad team, since they've been acquiring top draft assets and making their selections, it's always been about best player available. And that tends to be the draft philosophy among all the draft enthusiasts, right? You should take BPA above all else. But then that philosophy, I think, does maybe tend to shift a little bit once you are a team that is ready to start winning games, right? Once you are a team that has clearly defined needs on a specific roster. So Madison, in your eyes right now, is this Rockets team at a place where they could theoretically in this draft prioritize fit or a need, in this case, shooting or a position of need, versus just taking the biggest swing that they can when you see the big red Houston Rockets come up on the board, at Barclays Center?
Yeah, no, I definitely think we're in a position where we actually can take a position of need. And I think at 9, we will have a lot of different candidates at that position of need. But like you said, BPA is like the code draft people live by. But when you consider the lack of upside in this draft, and it's not really just a lack of upside, because like people always say there's Kawhi Leonard turned into a superstar. There's always superstar upsides in this draft, and there probably will be a superstar to come out of this draft. But I'm not sure if they'll come in the top 5, right? It'll be maybe a surprise guy like Giannis during his draft. But what I will say is there's this balance you play when evaluating prospects, and it's about how good a prospect is right now and what's their likelihood of becoming a star. What's the likelihood of reaching that upside? And that is very low, I feel like, in this draft. The likelihood of these guys becoming stars are very low because where the young players are in their games right now, and they just really need more development. A lot of these young guys would not play for a good team right now. And so I think the Rockets should take a hard look at getting a guy who could play now or who could contribute and fits an area of need, like adding a free agent. And so there's, like I said, shooting is one of our biggest needs, and there are a lot of elite shooters. We also may need a backup point guard if we don't stick with Holiday, right? We may be losing Holiday. There's a lot of really good point guards that offer a tremendous shooting, tremendous passing. There's some really good players that you can come and plug and play, and then also you have them like adding a free agent to your team. And at 9, I think we're further enough back where we can select one of those guys. But that lies. Oh, go ahead. You want to say?
No. Well, because I agree with everything. It's just, your point about this draft not having, those guys that have that kind of a superstar upside or whatever, because it's just not a incredibly talented draft like in previous years. It makes me think, and you were the one that brought this up last time, after we finished recording, and you had brought up this point, was the MPJ draft for the Denver Nuggets, right? They took a swing with that MPJ pick, and they were arguably probably in a position where they probably could have at that point gone for maybe a bit more of a guy who fit what they needed at the time a little bit better, as they were kind of on the upswing at that point. They went with the MPJ pick. Obviously, he was a guy that fell in the draft because of his injury history, because of his back concerns, and obviously that pick paid massive dividends for them, right? And it's similar to how Cam Whitmore, he fell in the draft, and he landed all the way at 20, and every team kept passing on him. And the Rockets, now they look like geniuses for taking him, and every other team, all the 19 spots ahead of him are kicking themselves for not taking the chance on this kid. So, I guess there's not really a player like that in this draft for the Rockets to take that swing on.
I do think there is a high risk, high reward player that the Rockets could go after in this draft at that position, and his name is Kelel Ware. I think Kelel Ware is a 7-foot prospect with an enormous wingspan. He's truly a physical specimen. He's not very strong right now, but that's okay. In his sophomore year, and this guy has great touch around the rim, and honestly, he is one of the most versatile offensive raw players that I've seen at the center position in a long time. I think he's raw, but there's so much natural talent there. You can just see this guy button. And honestly, I think he has top 3 potential in this draft, but he is dropped because there's issues with his what do you call it?
His motor, right? Like he has issues with his motor. He started last year, freshman. He was a top prospect coming out of high school, highly recruited. And then he went to Oregon, and Oregon did not play them. And Oregon plays their veteran guys. And so they really buried him on the bench. We had some negative things come out about him. Some negative things have still been circulating about him. When you watch the tape, I think the guy competes hard. There's just times in his tape where he gets caught ball watching.
right? And that can often come off as, hey, this guy has a poor motor. But I thought he worked really hard, and he flashed tremendously on the offensive end as well as on the defensive end. For a guy with no motor to average nearly 10 rebounds a game in college and 2 blocks, the numbers don't say that there's no motor there. That guy has a lot of work that he needs to do to get his processing up to speed. But once all those things come, his talent level is that of a superstar. And not only is he a tremendous lob threat, he has great hands and touch around the basket, but he is a smooth shooter. I think he shot almost 40% from three, given a low volume, but decent volume from three this year. And I think he's an excellent fit next to Sengun in the future. And so that's the type of guy you can bring in. He doesn't have to play right now. He probably can't play on a winning team right now because of his defensive processing. He's a bit of a step behind, but he has the upside to someday be a superstar in this league. And I think he has one of the highest upsides in this league, especially for the modern NBA. And that is the type of guy that I would target if I was looking purely on the upside.
That would be, you'd be happy to know. In my limited amount of knowledge about Kelel Ware, he was the guy that I picked in a recent mock draft that I was part of. So I was proud of that pick because I was like, you know what, I'm going to reach for this one. And I was in a Twitter DM chat with like 30 other like draft heads, draft enthusiasts, and I blew some minds when I went with Kelel Ware at number. I think I was at pick 10. I think the pick dropped 1 in that mock scenario. So it may be a bit of a reach at pick 10, but I also feel kind of strongly that, look, if there's any coach in today's NBA that can iron out issues of the quote unquote lack of motor or competitive edge or desire or whatever, that's going to be Ime Udoka, right? Because if you're not able to play for Ime, you're not gonna cut it in the league. If you've got questions about your desire, your motor, whatever. So I think that would be an interesting landing spot for him here in Houston, playing under Ime Udoka. Because obviously, look, I mean, you can go back and look at all the the pre-draft stuff on Time Lord too, right? Like waking up late for practices and stuff, oversleeping, missing his alarms, all that stuff.
Whitmore, just last year.
There you go.
Cam Whitmore,
thriving under Ime now.
Exactly. And those type of things, like that's why you have to take those type of things with a grain of salt, and you really got to understand and trust your program. I trust Ime Udoka to take that kid in and give him the best opportunity to reach his potential. And that's the type of thing. It's like, would I have trusted that a year ago with the program that we had? Probably not. You know what I mean? A lot of guys feel like Kelel Ware gives them Christian Wood vibes, but I think he's much more productive than Christian Wood, and I think there's a lot there. He just has to get his processing together, and I think Ime Udoka could be the one to iron that out.
And I think the Rockets, you also, to give a little bit of credit to the rest of the front office as well. Like, I mean, I know Ime is the shiny new thing in Houston and has done a fantastic job here in year 1. But the Rockets for the past few years have actually done a really exceptional job at the top of the draft. Right, they've just kind of taken whoever the consensus best guy is at their at that spot. First, it was it was Jabari, or most recently Amin, then Jabari. For the Jalen one, I think that one's a bit more of a choice, Jalen versus Evan Mobley at the time, and they obviously went with Jalen Green. But then in the middle part of the draft, right, like they went out, they traded and got Alperen and Sengun, right? Then they went out and they picked Tari, Eason. Like, they have made some really strong choices in the middle area, the back end of the lottery, that middle portion of the draft. So they've also done a really good job researching and understanding and getting to know these candidates before bringing them in and making them part of the Houston Rockets. So I think there should be a fair amount of confidence in how the Rockets have handled the draft in recent years, especially now that we know that they've got a head coach in hand with Ime Udoka who understands how to grow and develop and really nurture some of the talent that we've already seen him nurture on the roster right now. Just looking at how Amin Thompson and Cam Whitmore, how their rookie seasons went, how much better all the other rest of the core 6 looked playing under Ime Udoka. Last thing I've got for you, Madison, before we wrap this one up. I know we went down a rabbit hole there talking about getting taking a swing, getting the best player or whatever. If you had your way, let's say that the draft happens, whatever, what's one name that from a fit perspective you wish was on the board whenever the Rockets are picking at 9, or if it's 8, 10, whatever? If you could have your way and you get one name.
Why are you doing this? All right. One name. Okay. So
from a fit perspective, that's the thing. Not a swing, not a BPA. From a fit perspective, who would you take if you could? Yeah,
I'm with you. So I gave one name last time. It's two names I'm thinking about right now. But I gave this name last time we talked draft stuff, so I'm gonna go with the other one this time. Dalton Knecht. Dalton Knecht is probably, to me, the best shooter in this draft. He shoots the ball in every type of way, off movement, off the catch, off the dribble, shot creation. He can catch, shoot. He can move and shoot. And
I don't know much about Dalton. Is he like Desmond Bain-esque kind of shooter?
Oh, he's like more like Max Strus.
Okay, got it.
But he's the guy he's from Tennessee, and this dude was putting up numbers. I mean, like several 35, 40-point games on the season. I mean, just like he was probably the most premier scorer, period, in the college basketball.
My goodness, 21.7 points per contest on just under 40% shooting. Decent volume too, 6.5 attempts per game.
That's more than decent in college. You know what I mean? Like that, he's letting it fly, and in every type of way, man. Like off the catch, off movement. Like a lot of Max Strus is one of his comps because he's 6'6", and he does a lot. And they think his role will be reduced into Max Strus, but I think he's going to be more like Bogdanovich, because this guy can put the ball on the floor. He can make plays. He knows how to get to his spots in the mid range, and he's a sneaky good athlete. I mean, this guy has a lot of dunks on the season. I mean, he really can do it all. Tight handle. And really just a very versatile, mature player. I think he'll be 23 on draft day. And that is the guy I picked in in a community mock as well, is Dalton Knecht, because this guy, I think he'll be day one ready, if not day one, by year two, ready to contribute, and offers something that the Rockets don't have, which is a legitimate movement shooter, a guy that we can just draw off screens to create confusion, to create misdirection, and really to get his shot off over anyone and really knock it down at a high level. And he just has it, man. He can get in zones that are, with the best of them. So it'd be really good to add a shooter like that and put him around Alperen Sengun and Jalen Green. It would be really nice addition to this offense.
Okay, I like it.
And he's improved on defense. He's not a shutdown defender, but he's no slouch. I mean, that guy, he can at least get to where he's a net neutral on that end, which is very important for a guy with that type of skill set.
Okay, I like it. And on top of that, there's the added bonus that I would absolutely love to hear the creativity that Jonathan Sanford would come up with on the in-stadium PA at Toyota Center with the last name like Knecht. Are you kidding me? He's connecting on threes left and right, just like all sorts of fun stuff to be had with that name. On that note, though, what would you like to see the Houston Rockets do with this pick? Do you want to see them trade it for a win-now piece, a star caliber player? Would you like to see them make the selection? Who are some of the names that you have your eyes on in this year's NBA draft? Madison and I are going to be doing a lot of draft profiles coming up in the not-so-distant future as we navigate the pre-draft process, some names that you're going to want to be keeping an eye on as we approach the NBA draft. But Madison, you know the drill. Let everybody know where they can track you down at.
Yeah, you can track me down on X or Twitter at MadmanLeaks. Come talk Rockets basketball with me.
That's going to do it for another edition of Locked On Rockets. As always, thank you so much for checking out the show. If you haven't done so yet, please consider subscribing wherever you listen to your podcasts or on YouTube. Just search Locked On Rockets. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're listening via podcast feed, a 5-star review helps us out a ton. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And we look forward to having you back right here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball.